Hello, good morning class. Today I want to review how to use watercolors. So in your supply kit that you got from the school, you should have received a sketchbook and you should have received a tray of watercolors. It's the one that is labeled Prang, P-R-A-N-G. And whenever you open up the tray, there should be bunch of colors in here, and there should also be a brush inside as well. In order to use watercolors, you are going to need a cup of water, and you will also need some paper towels or something that you can dry your brush off with. Now, before we do any kind of watercolor painting in this class, I do just want to review how to use watercolors in case you have never used them before. So the first thing you want to do is with your brush, go ahead and just get it nice and cleaned off. Put it in the water. Sometimes it has like some goop on it from it being brand new, and so you want to just get it nice and clean, and you can either dry it off or keep it on the wet side. It does not matter. Now, there's a couple things I want to talk about with watercolor before we get started. You may notice if you touch it, it is dry. The paint doesn't work whenever it's dry. The only way that watercolor works is if you get the watercolor wet. So you add water to the paint in order to make it work. However, the reason it is called watercolor is because you mostly use water, not the paint. The paint is meant to just dye your water a certain color. And so the best way to use watercolor is to actually mix these colors together to create new colors by mixing the water in. And what I want to point out is this side of the tray here. You'll see that it has different areas where it's divided, and that's because this is where you are going to mix and make your colors at. You never want to mix and make your colors inside of your tray, because certain colors, once they get other colors inside of them, they will never turn back to their original color. So for example, if I wanted to take yellow and red and mix it together to make orange, I would do that over here in this tray, not over here. Let's go ahead and mix a few colors. We are just going to activate it really quick. I always like to put a little bit of water in the tray here. Get your brush wet and start with red. We'll just put a little bit of water there. Notice it only took about 2 drops in order for it to start to get activated. And whenever you are painting your watercolor, you never want to grind your brush into it. So what I mean is, let me dry this off. You never want to do this with your brush. Never ever should your brush be pressed up against the paint like this. And the reason for that is because you will absolutely destroy your brush if you grind it into the paint. So anytime that we are painting, you want to just gently, very, very gently rub your brush onto the paint. It doesn't have to be super crazy. It should keep its shape whenever you're painting. So it shouldn't get all frilled out. It should always stay like this. And then you'll take your red and we'll just move it right on over here into the tray. Now the reason we're moving our color over is because anytime we mix, we don't want to mix straight over here. We want to put it on our tray first, and then this is where we'll mix the colors. So let's go ahead and do this with red, with yellow, and with blue in our trays, and then we'll move on to the next step. In between each color, you want to get it really nice and clean. Wipe it off in the water, wipe it off on your paper towel. If you see it comes out clear, then your brush is nice and clean and ready to go. So we can do the exact same thing with yellow. You just add in that water, gently rub the water into the paint, and then you can move the paint over to the other side. Add a little bit more water if you feel like you're not getting a large amount of paint. You always want to add more water to make more paint. You don't want to just grind in here because that won't get you more paint. And then clean our brush. And last but not least, we need blue. So let's put a little bit of water here. Put it on our brush. Activate the paint, and we'll bring it over. If you need more, Add more water. Just like that. So if you've been following these steps, you should have a red, a yellow, and a blue inside of your tray right now. Now we only want to do these 3 colors for the moment because what we are going to be doing today is doing our primary colors and our secondary colors. And I want to show you the difference between making secondary colors and using them straight out of the pan. So for the very, very first part of this, I want you to take your brush and just take a little bit of your paint and go ahead and write primary colors on your paper and secondary colors. And then I want you to paint on the example onto your paper. Now you'll notice, because there is a pretty good amount of water inside of the paint, it will be what is called translucent. So you can kind of see through it, but it still shows a color. And that's exactly what you want whenever you're painting. You don't want it to be so solid that you only see is like a super bright color. You want it to be a little bit translucent. So we will add our yellow here. And every time you change colors, you want to wash your brush off. Every single time. Get a little bit of the blue and add the blue right here. Now, if you do pretty thin layers of the water, it will start to dry pretty quickly. If you add on really thick layers of water, it might take a really long time to dry. If you find that you are adding so much water that it is going through down to the next paper, it might be a good time to take a step back and not add any more water. And if it ever gets really crazy, you can always add a paper towel to your paper, but that will usually pick up the color too, so be careful if you do that. Okay, so we have our primary colors, red, yellow, and blue. The next thing that we want to do is mix colors in order to make our secondary colors. Now, we've already talked about making secondary colors before, but I want to go ahead and review it again. So, if I wanted to make the color orange, if I wanted to make this color right here, instead of going straight to the pan to grab this orange, I actually want to get my yellow, and I'll put a little bit over here. Pick up some of that yellow, rinse it off. You can always add water if you need more paint. Maybe we'll put a little bit more yellow in the tray here. Push up so you guys can see it better. And then we're going to take some of this red, and it's about half and half, and you will mix it together. Looks like this one actually needs more yellow. Red can be a pretty overpowering color, so we'll take a little bit of that, mix it in. And every time I'm cleaning off my brush in between, anytime I need to go to a different color. So right now I still think we need even more yellow, so I'm going to go into here. I'll add some more yellow to my tray, and then there should be some on the brush, and we'll mix it in. And we're mixing it on the tray first, because if you mix it on the paper, it is really hard to change or go back because it's drying as it's on the paper. So I think that's a pretty good shade of orange right there. I will take the paint and I'll paint it right on. We'll go ahead and let that dry and we'll move on to our next color. So let's go ahead and use the rest of our yellow since we already have it here. Go ahead and move this to this side. You'll find it might be a little hard at first to learn how to scoop up the water, but with practice it gets really fast. This is a type of artwork that does require patience though, so I recommend giving yourself plenty of time to work on it, especially if you need colors to dry. Watercolor is a very patient style of artwork. Okay, so we have a little glob of yellow over here, and now we want to make the color green. So in order to make the color green, we're going to grab a little bit of blue and mix it into our yellow. And as you mix the color together, you'll see it'll start to turn into a color of green. Now I personally want this green to be a little bit darker, so if I want it to go even darker, I would simply go in and add a little bit more blue to that green. Great. And now I have a shade of green. And I'll paint that onto my paper right here. And we'll just let that dry as we move on. Now there's one more secondary color. That secondary color is whenever you mix red and blue together, you will create the color purple. So let's go ahead and just take the red that we have here. I'm just going to put it straight into the blue. Red into blue, about half and half. And that will make a shade of purple. I'll paint that on the paper right here. So far I have primary colors and I have my secondary colors that I made myself. And the reason I want you guys to make them yourself first is so that you can see the difference between a color that you make yourself and a color that's straight from the tray. You will notice that the colors straight from the tray will be more bold and vibrant, but sometimes they aren't the right color that you need. So it's important to know with watercolor how to mix and make colors. That's going to be the main thing that we'll be learning this week. So for this assignment, make sure you do your primary colors first, your mixed secondary colors, and then right below it you'll do your secondary colors straight from the tray. So that's the last part I'll do of this assignment. Over on my color tray, I will activate the orange and put it right below. Since we're using it straight from the pan, we don't have to put it over on our tray. As long as we're not mixing, we can use it straight from the pan. So there's an orange right there. I will clean off my brush. And then the next one is green. So we'll add a little bit of green, a little bit of water to this green. Get it on our brush and go right here. Get that nice and cleaned off. Wipe your brush. And then the last one is the purple. So we'll add some water to purple and put it on our paper right here. And so for the end of this assignment, this is what your paper should look like. You should have your basic primary colors, you should have your mixed secondary colors, and then you should have your secondary colors that are straight from the pan. I want to know that you know how to make the color and that you can just pick it out of the tray. But being able to make it is just as important. Once you have that done, take a picture of it, load it up on Schoology, and that is our assignment for today. Thank you for watching. Bye.